Did you know Minecraft used to have battle axes? Or that this potion's so rare it only exists in the game's files? And these are 47 Minecraft item facts you maybe missed. During the development stages of Minecraft, the axe looked a little different, since back in Minecraft in dev, the axe's texture was double-sided like a battle axe, which seems pretty impractical when you're just trying to cut down a tree that's right in front of you, which is probably why the texture was changed just a few days later, and then changed again so that it faced the other way that we're now familiar with. This is one of the rarest items in Minecraft, and why is that? Well, the truth is that even though tall grass as a block exists all around us in the world, when you break it, you only get regular grass. So to actually get the tall grass item, you'd have to luck out and find it in something like a villager loot chest, which seems like a lot of effort to get this item, but if you're trying to get all of them, you should remember this stipulation.
In Bedrock, golden apples are substantially better than they are in Java. In this version, an enchanted golden apple gives you the Regeneration 5 effect instead of just Regeneration 2 in Java Edition. Though with how many random ways there are to take damage in Bedrock, the extra regeneration might be more appreciated.
When armor was first added to Minecraft, it looked like this, because on August 13th of 2009, Notch added in plate armor to the Java Edition Classic, which looks to me like if you tried to make iron armor out of smooth stone. But this is what it would look like if the player wore it, and they even tested it out to see how it would look on zombies or skeletons. Although when first added, it was purely cosmetic, and it had no impact on their actual health and gameplay. Back in version 1.3, flint used to look 3D, and if you studied it closely, you could see that the item had a shiny texture to it. But all of that changed in snapshot 18W43A, where the flint item was changed to be a little bit more 2D, and that same shiny texture seemed to have gone away, making it look a lot less like a Minecraft diamond and a whole lot more boring.
Minecraft's glowstone used to look like this. It had a yellow-green color when it was added in the alpha stage, and wasn't changed until the texture update of 1.14. And between that change and the retexture for Netherrack, 1.14 really made the Nether look a whole lot different.
While we choose to get our cocoa beans from the jungle, in Pocket Edition, the way they used to get these was by crafting it together with an ink sac, a red dye, and a dandelion yellow, which is a really peculiar sight to see laid out like this. But I guess the idea was that you were trying to mix together different dyes to get a brownish color, and that much makes sense, but to get cocoa beans themselves, then it just seems so weird, and you can see why they patched it out. If you were to throw out all of your items onto the ground in a specific order, then you'll notice that as soon as you go to try to pick them up, the items will enter your inventory in the exact same order that you threw them onto the ground. And this becomes instantly noticeable when you play something like PvP, and you have to throw out different items onto the ground to try and sort through your inventory in Hunger Games. So if you forgot to pick up that pair of chainmail leggings the first time around, don't worry, it's gonna cycle back and all will be clear. In older versions of Minecraft, it used to be possible to buy the Eye of Ender item, and this made the cleric villager indispensable for speedruns, considering that with this trade, you didn't even need to go to the Nether to get blaze powder for your Eyes of Ender. But during the snapshots for Java Edition 1.9, this did get balanced so that you couldn't just skip this integral part of the game, which is a bummer, but I think speedrunners are doing just fine without it.
This mob doesn't exist, so why is there a spawn egg for it? The truth is that the mask isn't some secret new mob, but really it's just that this sprite is the base texture Mojang uses to color shift for the other spawn egg textures. I suppose that means we'll have to look for hidden lore elsewhere.
While you get the most experience from cooking ancient debris in a furnace, you know what gives you the least amount of experience? Well, sure enough, if you're cooking up your chorus fruit or your kelp in a furnace as an XP farm, you're wasting your time, considering that these items can give you an average of 0.1 experience points. And sometimes that means they'll give you no XP at all. And considering dried kelp isn't even that great of a food source, I don't think this is worth doing in the first place.
You can craft honey bottles into honey blocks. That's not a surprise, that's how you get them in the first place. But with those same 4 glass bottles, you can craft the honey blocks back into the bottle. This makes perhaps the weirdest way to store your honey. And the fact that this can be uncrafted while nether wart blocks can't seems even stranger.
Here's why channeling is the most evil enchantment that you can use in Minecraft. If you were to put this on your trident and then kill one of your friends or foes, then on death, all of their items will be deleted from the inventory, which no doubt is devastating. So if you weren't able to trick your friend into putting Curse of Vanishing on their stuff, then I guess you could do this and essentially put Curse of Vanishing on their entire kit.
Can you spot the difference between this crossbow and this one here? If you can't, don't worry about it. You're not supposed to. While it's possible to tell the difference between a crossbow with a firework and one with an arrow while they're in your hotbar, this sprite change doesn't show up if the item's on the ground or in an item frame.
While in creative mode, if you were to shoot an arrow above your head, obviously it's not going to hit you. But this also doesn't mean that the arrow disappears, so what you get as a result is that the arrow will continue to try and bounce on top of your head, just glitching there in place. Which notably is the same thing that happens when you try to land an arrow on top of an enderman. They also can't get hit, so you kind of just get an arrow hat.
Mojang made this texture look even worse, but that was the point, since as of the texture update of 1.14, the fermented spider eye changed to look a lot more red and gooey than it did in the past, which is definitely more gross, but that's likely accurate to how a mix of spider eyes, mushrooms, and sugar would be in the real world anyway.
If you were to have a Minecraft clock in your inventory and then change change the time using commands, you'll notice that the clock has to rapidly spin to catch up to what the current time is. And as is in a regular Minecraft day, each of those 64 frames of animation is only going to play for about 19 seconds a frame, given that a full Minecraft day is 20 minutes. Or if you wanted to, you could type in the time set command like this, and that way the clock will have to catch up and play through all those animation frames just like that. By this point, you've probably seen the globe banner pattern. It's not the most visually interesting, but it does have interesting ramifications. Since if you consider the fact that this is how the Minecraft globe looks, then that would mean that the Minecraft world is square and not round. So sorry, MatPat, I guess that your theory might not be true. At least according to the cartographer villager.
Unlike us, arrows don't slow down while passing through cobwebs, nor do snowballs or ender pearls, which might just mean that the fastest way through a cobweb trap is to shoot your shot instead of wasting time with a sword.
While in creative mode, it's possible to add any enchantment that you'd like to any item, including items that can't be enchanted normally, which means that if you really wanted to, you could get yourself a fire aspect water bucket, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but at least you're offering both the problem and the solution. Stop using a sword to try and break cobwebs, because instead, it's possible to break these even faster by using a water bucket. So next time that you're stuck down in a spider's domain, it'd be better to pour out some flowing water instead of wasting any durability on your diamond sword. The water's also a lot more reusable, so I doubt there's any objections.
Unlike the rest of the leather armor set, leather boots are the only piece that's named the same as the other armor sets, since the leather helmet is called a cap, the leather chestplate is a tunic, and the leather leggings are called pants, or trousers in the UK version.
This enchanted book is not supposed to exist, because it's enchanted with, well, nothing. And the only way that it's possible to get such an illegal item is by using this command to give yourself an enchanted book with no other NBT tags. And there you go, it's enchanted, yet pointless. The next time that you're trying to cure your villagers, make sure to have this on your crossbow, since by using an arrow that's tipped in the weakness effect in combination with a piercing 4 crossbow, it's technically possible to cure 4 villagers at once. And better yet, when that arrow hits a wall, because you have the piercing enchantment, you're also able to pick it up and reuse it, giving you a violent but perhaps necessary way to cure all of your villagers in a cheap manner. This flower looks illegal, but it used to spawn in version 1.8, and the reason for this strange sight is that when the game generates where the plant should be on the plains biome, it does that before the puddles are actually generated into the world. So while it might have thought that there was supposed to be a flower there, when it later decides that there should be a lake there as well, it deletes the grass block, and now you've got this floating flower head like this, which is strange, but it's actually a lot closer to how the item renders when you place it on the floor, which ends up being a nice coincidence, even if it was an error in the code. Here's how to light up your igloo without turning it into a water waste. Since while it's true that things like glowstone and torches are going to melt the snow, if you were to use redstone dust, torches, or even candles and soul torches, none of those will melt any of your ice or snow, giving you the perfect way to illuminate your Fortress of Solitude, and also keep it a Fortress of Solitude by making sure no mobs can spawn inside.
When it was first added, the Nether Star could be destroyed by the Wither's explosions, meaning sometimes you'd beat the boss and wouldn't be able to find the reward. But now it's blast resistant, meaning it can't even be destroyed by a separate TNT explosion.
Obviously, you're not supposed to break a crafting table with your pickaxe, but even Mojang wants you to know this fact, considering that if you use your tools where they're not supposed to, it'll deal double the durability damage to said tool, meaning it's not just a waste, it's a double waste. And considering that certain tools don't even work better than your fist in this example, it's really just best to scroll to a different place on your hotbar and do it that way, saving both your tools and yourself from a headache. Before you try fishing, you should look up first, since if you're fishing in an area where you don't see clear sky above the water, that'll double your waiting time. So while it might sound safe and convenient to fish inside a cave, it's not going to be that convenient having to wait double the time as opposed to fishing up on the surface. Not to mention the fact that you also get a bonus when it rains outside, so don't waste your time and just move your bobber upstairs.
This was the simplest duplication glitch in Minecraft's history. In 1.8, there was a bug where if you threw items on the ground and then logged out just as you picked them back up, you'd return to see double the items, which meant you could repeat the process again and again. You get the picture, it was a real mess.
Why is this minecart different from the others? Well, as it turns out, the minecart hopper has a slightly different texture as opposed to the other ones. And not just on top, but if you look at the bottom, you'll see that the hopper part of the minecart actually pokes through the bottom, which makes sense, otherwise the items would just fill up into the basin, and that doesn't seem all that helpful. But if you didn't look at it from this point, I don't think any of us would have noticed. What happens if you smelt mushrooms? Well, in every other version, nothing. You don't even need to cook them for mushroom stew. But in Pocket Edition, it used to be possible to smelt red mushrooms to get, well, red dye, which seems like a lot of hassle to go through considering that you could just craft a rose and get the same results. You might not have noticed this, but I don't know when you ever would have seen it. But on the off chance that you were to stand next to a cocoa bean and then let it grow, then it's true that as the cocoa bean gets bigger, it'll push the player down into crawl mode. That way you're not going to be suffocating when you stand next to it. But why you would be waiting right next to a cocoa bean to grow anyways, I've got no clue.
In Bedrock Edition, if you put a trident in a dispenser, trigger, it'll be shot out as a projectile, which is a lot better than what happens in Java. Over there it just drops as an item would. So for those of you on Bedrock Edition, consider adding this into your next deadly builds.
Within the game's files, the Heart of the Sea actually goes by a different name. And if you go searching for it, you can see that at one time during its development, the Heart of the Sea must have been called the Nautilus Core, which makes sense considering that you have to use that in combination with Nautilus shells to get yourself a conduit. So it's not like they made a crazy leap in changing the name, but considering the fact that Nautilus normally refers to some kind of mollusk, it makes you wonder if this is ever supposed to be dropped by a mob instead of found in a chest.
What would you call this item? Well, nowadays it's named the Glistering Melon. Prior to Snapshot 18W20B, it was known in the game's files as Speckled Melon, which doesn't sound terribly appetizing, but neither does the word glistering, come to think of it.
Now, leaves are a transparent block, you're not supposed to be able to place torches on them. But back in Minecraft Alpha, if you changed your graphics setting to play with fast textures, then you could place a torch against the block, even if you were to change it back to fancy. But don't try to place it on fancy first, because then it would just crash the game. And while neither graphics option lets this work nowadays, you could always do it with the set block command. If you go to enchant your bow and go for a level 1 enchantment, then if you have no bookshelves nearby, the first level 1 enchantment will always be power 1. Seriously, try this on however many bows that you want, you're not gonna get anything else. Which might be helpful if you're looking for a low powered enchantment in PvP, it's better to have power 1 on your bow instead of Unbreaking 1. So I'd rather go for the cheaper and simpler option in this case.
Mojang says they'll never add chairs to Minecraft, but that's just not true. Since back in the InfDev version of Minecraft, there did exist a chair texture within the game's files, though this was never fully coded in. So I suppose that means Mojang is also telling the truth. Let's call this one a draw.
For a brief period in Minecraft Java, there was a time where you were able to craft both horse armor and horse saddles. And oddly enough, there was a unique item just for riding the horse with this saddle, meaning that even if you went through all the effort to get 5 leather and 3 iron ingots, you couldn't use this on a pig. And even stranger still, it could be stacked up to 32 in a stack, which again made it unique. But that didn't save this or the horse armor crafting recipes from getting patched out of the game shortly after.
You would never notice this in regular gameplay, but one end crystal is capable of healing multiple ender dragons at once. This becomes quickly noticeable when you summon in multiple dragons, as the crystal splits off different beams to heal the dragons.
When skew was first added to Minecraft, it was originally called turtle shell pieces, which isn't all that surprising, it's what they are, but after some players pointed out that it's actually a more technical term to use the word skewed, then it was changed.
How rare would it be to get all the wither skulls for a wither in one go? If you do the maths, to get 3 wither skeleton skull drops in a row, it would be a 1 in 64,000 chance. That's a 0.0015% chance, or in other words, highly unlikely.
The copper horn never made it into Minecraft, and it only existed in an experimental snapshot for Bedrock for a short time. But even though it's been removed, if you use something like a data pack from this user, there does exist a way to revive the item. Now unfortunately that same data pack doesn't make it very useful, but in fairness the item never was anyway, which is probably why it was removed.
You've probably seen this item before, but not like this. With the use of commands, you're able to give yourself a physical knowledge book like this, and by using that item, it'll grant the player access to new recipes to try out with the other green knowledge book, the one that you find on the crafting screen.
If you have this potion in Minecraft, you're breaking the rules, because in vanilla Minecraft, there's no way to craft this potion. But if you use this give command to give yourself a potion with no NBT tags, it technically has no potion effect that goes along with it. But even if you can't get this item within survival, there is still a way to see it, since if you look at the icon for the local brewery advancement window, you'll see it's the same potion. So gone, but not forgotten. Diamonds and spawn eggs share the same texture, and if you can't notice it from here, maybe this example makes it a bit more obvious. And it's not just the spawn eggs that share the same shape as the diamond, but also the turtle egg as well, which I didn't notice until it was pointed out, but now I'll never be able to unsee it. And with that folks, YouTube thinks that you might like this video, so see if they're right and have a good one, alright?